This episode was the episode of one-on-one encounters, whether it was Harald versus Bjorn, or Ubbe versus Frodo, Freydis versus Ivar, and a more friendly encounter between Viksid and Bjorn. But this episode wasn't just physical confrontations, it was very much a spiritual involvement of tons of characters. We had Lagertha facing herself, Ubbe having a spiritual change, Floki facing his greatest fears, Viksid finding out what he's supposed to do, and Harald plunging back into uncertainty. So let's start by looking at Judith's sudden death. All of this season, we've seen her put everything she has into making sure that Alfred's reign is secure and stable. She had a single-minded goal of ensuring that Alfred could be the greatest king possible, even if it meant breaking everything on her moral compass. She plotted and schemed and tortured and killed her own son, all to make sure he could rule unchallenged. For most of her life in Viking, she's been very self-interested. She didn't let taboos or what people said she could and could not do stop her from achieving what she wanted. Aethelred's widow wife almost had it true when she said, "I think you control everything that happens here." Judith has been a very influential part of the court for a very long time. She was able to bend and break almost every rule. She learned to read and draw and paint in holy texts. She sat with Eadberg and Athelstan and had a bastard that was allowed to become king. And he's going to be one hell of a king. Then we move to Lagertha being reborn. We get to see these really mystic flashbacks of her at near death after she escaped from the battle and she saw Hickman die. There's been so much thrown at Lagertha through all of the seasons and this entire series as a whole. When she left Ragnar, she lost her home, her love, and her position. And then when she slowly builds back up her own earldom, her own position, it gets usurped. And she loses another love just to regain it back again. Then when she finally comes home again, retakes Kattegat, and gains all of the glory, the kingdom, the position, everything she used to have, it's empty and does not last. She's besieged from all sides, undermined, betrayed, and thrown out. And then finally she gets one last try at love and a new life, just to watch it fall away from her yet again. There's been all of these prophecies at how she's going to die, how a son of Ragnar's going to kill her, all these people trying to target her and get rid of her, but this whole time I just want her to have the life she always dreamed of. A small, simple village life with Ragnar, farming on a new community and building up a family. And she won't have the family or Ragnar she had before, but she will have a chance at living this new reborn life as a simple farmer, helping this new community grow. So then we come to this spiritual reawakening of Ubbe, which, like many young men, has to come by being beaten almost to death and somehow scaving through. I really enjoyed this one-on-one fight we had with Ubbe. It felt a lot more gritty and real than any of the fights we normally have. So often in fantasy we have people run up to like fully armored soldiers, just one slice down the middle and they fall down dead. But real battles between humans are always way more unflattering and messy than that. But even though they weren't in armor of this fight, they really went brutal on it. Like my body actually winced when Ubbe stabbed him right in the leg with that dagger. Oof. The most powerful part would have to be when Torvi walks up, holds his head and his eyes just looking up, unblinking. For a solid 5 seconds, I thought they'd actually just killed off Ubbe. It'd be so crazy for them to end Ubbe's storyline with him creating peace in England. For his final act and death to be this confining of these two cultures to form a new land and protection and new future for their people. He would have created Ragnar's dream, realized it, and died before enjoying it. And then he gasped and Torvi said he was alive and I was like, he's not dead. So Ubbe has this introspective moment with Torvi where he discusses his feelings and he feels he's no longer attached to this cross or the Christ god. In the dire moments of the fight, he felt the spirits of Odin go into him and he's kind of reverted back to where he was. This kind of leaves the door open for later on for him not to be fully on board with Alfred all the way through the story. It's clear that Ubbe respects Alfred. He calls him a good and wise king and a great leader to his people. But he's definitely not done with his investment in the Viking and Norse world, so I could definitely see him being a part of the politics and world and people there. Like, he's not going to completely drop all ties to that place and just commit to England. It was a really great episode for Ubbe, and I definitely don't want to see this to be the very last moment we see Alfred and him work together. They were such a great duo, so hopefully we get more of that in Season 6. Now, of course, we had this very big and important spiritual moment with Floki. The man is so desperate at this moment to validate his thoughts and religion. He just continually climbs deeper into caves, exploring farther and farther, thinking around the next turn the gods will be there. He can hear their hammers. But then all of that comes crashing down in front of him when he finds, of all things, a cross. Isn't it ironic? So for those of you wondering, I got one comment from one person saying that perhaps there was some evidence that some clerics went to Iceland before Vikings got there, and that's why the cross could be halfway deep down in the mountain. But at this point, it's just pretty much the show deciding that they want something to be there to really just break apart Floki. Like all of the things he's done in his life, he's been the most zealous with his religious beliefs. He formed a community that was based off people who were truly loyal to the gods. He killed Athelstan because he saw him converting Ragnar to something he thought was wrong. And he saw himself better than all those that weren't truly committed to the gods and were more focused on fame and ambition, like Lagertha. So for this to happen to him is just the pinnacle of his story. So the volcano literally explodes with him inside of it, and he's covered with dust and rubble. So was that the end for our great friend Floki? Was his entire arc and all the journeys and relationships and things he had end here with him breaking down his entire belief system? Was his last moments literally a mental breakdown from having everything he ever thought was true challenged and obliterated? Personally, I hope not. So I'd love to hear what you guys think about Floki's storyline. Did you want this to be the place he ends? This is where his story ends? Do you think it's going to be where he ends, but you don't want it to be? Tell me your thoughts below. Then we got this really awesome scene between Harald and Bjorn with their little spat and conflict and little, but I want to be king. Maybe I'll join over unless you kill me. Well, maybe I will kill you then. The way Grendelholm just stepped in, slapped him in the face and said, "Stop acting like children." Straight away, it turns the entire way interpret the scene from this very serious conflict where they're going to change the game and split their armies apart to just, why are we acting like idiots? We've got a task to do and we haven't even come close to completing it yet. So they just look at each other and they're like, touch arms, keep walking. I must say I also quite enjoyed this new character that's added to try and really give more of a person to go back and forth with Magnus as he kind of struggles between his whole thing when she confronts him about, oh, why did you call to your lord during a storm? And he kind of stammers up a bit and he's defensive. He's but I had to grow up with them and stuff. It's just so used to it. And you can clearly tell he's very uncomfortable and doesn't really understand what he thinks. So yet again, we'll have another character confronting their spiritual beliefs and what they really want from their life. And then lastly, we have Bjorn meeting up with Viksid and then finally joining their forces together. Here we see Viksid finally get really comfortable with the fact that he's got the big boy pants on now and he's going to take down Ivar. All this season, he's been umming and ahhing of why he joined Ivar, why he didn't fight with Ubbe, what he's supposed to do, what his future is, who he believes. And clearly he's decided now that he must kill Ivar and that is his path. Perhaps he thinks that the seer was referring to him killing Ivar when he said he would achieve something no one else has been able to. But I don't think that's the case. Alfred needs to be the person to take down Ivar, and he has to do it really late into Season 6. The foreshadowing is clear, the parallels are there, and the entire story seems to be heading in that direction. So I'm not sure where that leaves Viksid. I really hope he achieves something big, and I feel like there's a lot for him to do, but it really depends on what Vikings wants to actually do with this character and where they want to take him. After what he has done, Ivar's relationship with Freydis is so different. Ivar has reached peak unlikability. He's choking out girls, he's being a tyrant, he's raising up his force, he's being just chaotic evil everywhere. They're clearly setting him up very high to knock him right down. So much spiritual involvement, so much plot movement, everyone's getting ready for that big finale in episode 20. I can't wait to see the entire world shift in an unchangeable way. So if you're excited like me, make sure to like this video, watch my episode 20 preview breakdown, and as well as tell me all your thoughts about this episode and the amazing things we got in it. Thanks for watching, and SKOL.